The lighthouse stands where the land gives up. 70 feet of weathered stone rising from black rocks that have broken 1,000 ships. The Atlantic hammers these cliffs 300 days a year, sending spray high enough to coat the tower's windows in salt that never fully washes away. This is the kind of place men were sent when they understood that solitude wasn't punishment. It was purpose. Thomas Hargrove climbs the spiral stairs the way he has for 43 years. His boots know every worn spot in the iron steps. His hand finds the rail without looking. At 72, his body has memorized this tower the way other men memorize their morning commute. But Thomas never had a commute. He had a calling. His grandfather manned this lighthouse from 1940 until 1973. 33 years of trimming wicks, polishing lenses, and maintaining machinery that kept ships off these rocks. His father broke the tradition, moved inland, took a factory job. Thomas came back. Some men spend their lives running from their grandfather's shadow. Others spend their lives trying to fill it. The lighthouse was automated in 1973. Computers and electric fog signals replaced the keeper's cottage, the logbooks, the human presence. The Coast Guard said it was progress. They said one man in an office could monitor 50 lights. They were right about efficiency. They were wrong about what was lost. Thomas stayed anyway. The government didn't pay him. The tower was officially unmanned, but he came every day, checked the automated systems, cleared debris, repaired storm damage. His son called it obsession. His wife, before she passed, called it love. Thomas called it maintenance. The storm hits on a Tuesday in October. Not a hurricane. Those have names and warnings. This is the kind of North Atlantic blow that just appears, dragging 60-knot winds and seas that rewrite the coastline. Thomas is inside when the tower starts singing. Not the normal sounds. He knows those. The whistle of wind through the gallery rail, the groan of the structure flexing, the percussion of waves hitting stone. This is different, lower, resonant, coming from below. The sound is coming from the basement level, from behind the door. Thomas has walked past that door 8,000 times. It sits at the base of the tower, iron painted over so many times the handle has lost its shape. A padlock the size of a fist secures it. The lock is rusted into permanence, the keyhole packed with decades of corrosion. Above the door, stenciled in faded yellow paint, authorized personnel only, sealed 1973. He's never tried to open it. His grandfather's final logbook entry mentioned sealing the auxiliary systems when the lighthouse was automated. Thomas assumed it was just old equipment, obsolete machinery, the kind of thing the government locks away and forgets. But now the door is vibrating. The storm's pressure changes are doing something to whatever's behind that iron. The sound comes in pulses, deep, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Thomas stands in front of the door for 10 minutes. The rational choice is to ignore it. The tower is scheduled for demolition in 8 months. The Coast Guard sold the property to a developer who wants to build condominiums, luxury ocean views. The lighthouse will be rubble by summer. Opening this door won't change that. It won't save the tower. It won't validate 43 years of unpaid maintenance. It will just show him something else he's about to lose. He goes to get his tools anyway. At 72, Thomas has learned that regret weighs more than risk. He's learned that the things you don't do carve deeper than the things you try and fail at. He's learned that some doors are meant to be opened, even when, especially when, you're afraid of what's inside. His toolbox is older than the automation. His grandfather's initials are scratched into the lid, J.H. James Hargrove. The tools inside are the kind they don't make anymore. Forged steel, wooden handles worn smooth, a socket wrench that weighs 3 pounds. These tools were made when men expected to pass them to their sons. Thomas selects a cold chisel and a hammer. The padlock isn't coming off. The shackle has fused to the body. He'll have to cut through the hasp instead. The first strike sends a shock up his arm. The metal barely dents. This isn't modern hardware store steel. This is the kind of iron they used when they expected things to last a century. He strikes again, again. The sound echoes up the tower's spiral. On the 7th hit, the hasp cracks. On the 9th, it breaks. The padlock falls to the floor with a sound like a bell. Thomas grips the door handle. The metal is cold enough to hurt. He pulls. Nothing. The door hasn't moved in 51 years. The frame has settled. Paint has sealed the edges. He braces his boot against the wall and pulls harder. The door groans. Paint cracks along the seam. A gap appears. An inch of darkness breathing cold air that smells like machine oil and deep time. Thomas pulls again and the door swings open with a sound like a ship's hull tearing. Darkness. Complete and absolute. The kind of dark that exists only in sealed spaces, where no light has entered for half a century. Thomas's flashlight cuts into it, the beam seeming to move slower than it should, as if the darkness has weight. The light finds metal first. Brass. Enormous gears, each tooth the size of his hand. They rise from the floor in a vertical column, connected by chains thick enough to moor a ship. The gears are motionless but perfectly preserved, coated in grease that hasn't dried. Above them, suspended from the ceiling by iron brackets, hang bells. 7 bells. Different sizes. The smallest is the diameter of a dinner plate. The largest could hold a man inside it. They're made of bronze that's gone green in places, but the metal underneath still gleams. Each bell has a hammer positioned beside it, connected to the gear system by a network of chains and counterweights. Thomas steps inside. The chamber is circular, maybe 20 feet across. The walls are the lighthouse's original stone, but they're lined with copper tubes. The tubes run from floor to ceiling, branching like veins, all converging at a central manifold. He follows them with his flashlight. They lead up into the tower's hollow core. This is a wind system. The tubes are channels. When wind hits the tower, it's funneled down through these tubes, building pressure in the manifold. That pressure drives pistons. The pistons turn the gears activate the hammers. The hammers strike the bells. It's a mechanical orchestra powered by weather. No electricity, no fuel, just wind and engineering and the understanding that some signals need to be heard even when the power fails. Thomas has read about these systems. Acoustic fog signals. They were common in the 1800s, used before compressed air horns and electric sirens. But those were simple, usually just one bell and a clockwork mechanism. This is something else. This is complex, sophisticated, the kind of system that takes years to design and a master craftsman to build. He moves deeper into the chamber. His flashlight finds a workbench bolted to the wall. Tools hang above it on hooks, arranged by size. A oil can, a set of tuning hammers. Everything is positioned exactly, the way a surgeon arranges instruments. This wasn't just maintained, this was loved. On the bench sits a logbook, leather cover, pages swollen with humidity but intact. Thomas opens it carefully. The first entry is dated January 3, 1921. The handwriting is precise, mechanical almost. Each letter formed with the care of a man who understands that records matter. He flips through the pages, maintenance schedules, bell tuning notes, wind speed correlations. The entries span decades, different hands, different keepers, but the same dedication. The last entry is March 17, 1973. He recognizes the handwriting immediately. His grandfather's. Final inspection complete. All mechanisms operational. Bells tuned to specification. System sealed per Coast Guard order. To whoever opens this, let her sing again. J. Hargrove. Thomas reads it 3 times. His grandfather knew. Knew someone would eventually open this door. Knew the system would be found. Left instructions. Left permission. Left a message across 51 years. The wind outside intensifies. The storm is reaching its peak. Thomas feels the pressure change in his ears. And then he hears it. Air moving through the tubes. A low whistle at first, rising in pitch as the wind accelerates through the channels. The manifold begins to hiss. Pressure building. The pistons start to move, slowly at first, fighting decades of stillness. The gears resist, then surrender, beginning to turn with a grinding sound that smooths into a mechanical rhythm. The chains go taut. The hammers draw back. Thomas steps back. After 51 years of silence, the lighthouse is about to remember its voice. The first hammer falls. It strikes the largest bell with a sound that isn't just heard, it's felt. The tone is so deep it vibrates in the chest, in the bones, in the stone itself. The sound wave moves through the tower, through the rock, out across the water. It's not loud in the way a horn is loud. It's present, undeniable, a voice that cuts through wind and wave and fog. 3 seconds later, the second hammer falls. A higher pitch. The 2 tones create a harmony, a chord that hangs in the air. Then the third bell, the fourth, the fifth, each one adding to the pattern, creating a sequence that's both musical and mathematical. This isn't random. This is a code. Each lighthouse had its own bell pattern, its own signature. Ships' captains memorized them the way soldiers memorize their unit's call sign. In fog, when you couldn't see 50 feet, you listened. You counted the bells. You knew where you were by what you heard. This pattern is 4 deep tones. 2 high, 1 medium, repeated every 30 seconds. Thomas knows it. His grandfather described it in stories. 4 for the cardinal directions, 2 for the rocks on either side, 1 for home. This is the voice that guided ships through these waters for 50 years. The bells continue. The system has found its rhythm now. The gears turning smoothly, the hammers falling with mechanical precision. The sound fills the chamber, the tower, the air outside. Thomas stands in the center of it, tears running down his face, and he's not ashamed. Some sounds earn tears. Some moments demand them. He's hearing what his grandfather heard, what his grandfather's father heard. The voice of the lighthouse. The sound that meant safety, direction, hope. The sound that brought men home. Thomas climbs back up the spiral stairs. The bells are louder here, resonating through the tower's hollow core. He reaches the gallery, steps outside into the storm. The wind hits him hard enough to stagger, but he grips the rail and looks out at the ocean. The sound carries. Even over the wind, even over the waves, the bells cut through. He can hear them clearly, the pattern unmistakable. 4 deep, 2 high, 1 medium, repeat. A voice calling across the water, saying the same thing it said for a century. You are not lost. I am here. Follow me home. A light appears on the water, then another. Fishing boats. They heard it. They're coming to investigate. Thomas watches them approach, their running lights bobbing in the heavy seas. The boats circle offshore, keeping a safe distance from the rocks, but close enough to hear clearly, close enough to remember. One of the boats sounds its horn, 3 short blasts, the maritime signal for, I understand. Another boat joins in, then another. They're answering, talking back to the lighthouse in the only language that matters out here. Thomas stays on the gallery until the storm begins to break. The wind eases. The bells slow, then stop as the pressure in the manifold drops. The last tone hangs in the air for a long moment, then fades into the sound of waves and wind and the eternal conversation between water and stone. He goes back down to the chamber. The gears have stopped, but everything is still intact. The system worked. After 51 years of silence, after decades of neglect, it worked perfectly, because it was built by men who understood that some things need to last, that some responsibilities extend beyond a single lifetime. That quality isn't about cost, it's about commitment. Thomas begins to clean the mechanisms. He wipes down the gears, oils the chains, checks the hammers. It's past midnight when he finishes. His back aches. His hands are black with grease. He's happier than he's been in years. He leaves the door open. No reason to seal it again. Let the wind come. Let the bells sing when the conditions are right. Let the lighthouse remember what it was built to do. Word spreads fast in a maritime community. By morning, Thomas has visitors, old men mostly, fishermen, retired Coast Guard, men who spent their lives on the water. They come to hear the story. They come to see the mechanism. They come because they remember. Captain William Chen is 83. He arrives with his grandson, a boy of 12 who looks bored until he sees the bells. I heard that sound once, Chen says. 1968, October. I was running a trawler. Got caught in fog so thick I couldn't see my own bow. Navigation failed. Radio was out. I was drifting toward these rocks and I knew it. Then I heard the bells. 4 deep, 2 high, 1 medium. I knew exactly where I was. I knew which way to turn. That sound saved my crew. He stands in the chamber for a long time, just looking at the bells. His grandson asks how it works, and Chen explains it, his voice taking on the tone of a man teaching something important. The boy listens. Actually listens. He asks questions. Good questions. Questions about engineering and maintenance and why anyone would build something this complicated. Because lives depended on it, Chen says. Because when you're responsible for other people's safety, you don't cut corners. You build it right. You build it to last. You build it so that 50 years later, it still works. More people come. The local historical society, a maritime museum curator, a journalist from the regional paper. Thomas tells the story over and over, and each time he tells it, he understands it better. This isn't just about machinery. It's about continuity. about the thread that connects grandfather to grandson, keeper to keeper, past to present. His son arrives on the third day. David, 47 years old, works in software development, lives 200 miles away, visits twice a year out of obligation. He stands in the chamber looking at the bells, and Thomas can see him trying to understand. "You've been coming here every day for 43 years, David says. "For this." "Not for this," Thomas says. "I didn't know this was here. I came because it needed to be done, because someone had to care. But why you?" "Because I could, because I was willing, because your grandfather did it, and someone needed to continue." David is quiet for a while. Then, "The demolition. Is it still happening?" "Far as I know." "That's wrong." Thomas looks at his son. "Yeah, it is. I'm going to make some calls," David says. "I know people, historic preservation groups, maritime organizations. This needs to be protected." Thomas doesn't say anything. He just nods. Sometimes the best response is silence. Sometimes you let people come to understanding on their own. The demolition is postponed. Not canceled. Bureaucracy doesn't move that fast. But postponed. Pending review. The Historical Society files paperwork. The Maritime Museum offers to take over maintenance. The State Historic Preservation Office sends an inspector. The inspector is a woman in her 50s named Dr. Sarah Vance. She has 3 degrees and has written 2 books on lighthouse preservation. She spends 4 hours in the chamber, examining every component, taking photographs, making notes. When she emerges, she looks like she's seen something sacred. "This is a Hargrove-Patterson acoustic system," she says. "We thought they were all destroyed. There are references to them in archives, but no surviving examples. This is the only one in the world." She explains that the system was designed in 1919 by James Hargrove, Thomas's grandfather, and a marine engineer named Robert Patterson. They built 3 of them. One was dismantled in 1955. One was destroyed in a hurricane in 1962. This one was thought to be lost when the lighthouse was automated. "Your grandfather didn't just maintain this lighthouse," Vance says. "He designed the acoustic system. He was an engineer, a brilliant one, and he sealed it rather than let them destroy it. He preserved it for exactly this moment." Thomas sits down. He needs to sit down. His grandfather never mentioned designing anything, never mentioned engineering. In Thomas's memory, he was just a keeper, a man who did his job. But that's the thing about men of that generation. They didn't talk about their accomplishments. They just did the work and moved on. The preservation order comes through in December. The lighthouse is granted historic status. The demolition is canceled. The property is transferred to the state park system. Thomas is offered a position as official keeper, with actual pay this time. He accepts. His first official act is to restore the bell system to operational status. He orders parts. He cleans every component. He tunes the bells using his grandfather's notes. It takes 3 months. His son helps. His grandson, David's boy, age 14, helps too. 3 generations working on something one of them built a century ago. They test the system on a clear day in March. The wind is steady from the northeast. Perfect conditions. Thomas opens the vents. The air flows through the tubes. The gears begin to turn, the hammers fall. 4 deep, 2 high, 1 medium. The sound carries for miles. People stop what they're doing, they come outside, they listen. Some of them are old enough to remember. Some of them are hearing it for the first time. All of them understand they're hearing something that matters. Thomas stands in the gallery with his son and grandson. The bells ring out across the water, across the rocks, across time itself. This is what continuity sounds like. This is what legacy means. Not fame, not wealth, just the knowledge that something you built, something you maintained, something you preserved will outlast you, will serve its purpose long after you're gone. Why did great-great-grandpa seal it instead of letting them destroy it? His grandson asks. Thomas thinks about that. Because he knew someone would need it again. Maybe not right away, maybe not for 50 years, but eventually. He knew that some things are worth preserving even when the world says they're obsolete. He knew that progress isn't just about moving forward, it's about knowing what to bring with you. The boy nods. He gets it. Maybe not completely. Maybe not the way he will when he's older. But he gets enough. The lighthouse still stands. The bells still ring when the wind is right. Thomas still climbs the spiral stairs every morning, though now he's paid for it. His son visits more often. His grandson is learning the maintenance routines, learning the history, learning what it means to be responsible for something larger than yourself. Some doors are locked because we're afraid. Some doors are locked because we're waiting. Thomas Hargrove opened a door that had been sealed for 51 years, and what he found wasn't just machinery. It was memory. It was purpose. It was proof that some voices should never be silenced, some traditions deserve preservation, and some responsibilities transcend lifetimes. The sound of those bells is more than metal striking metal. It's the voice of men who understood that their work mattered, that quality endures, that duty isn't about recognition. It's about showing up day after day, whether anyone's watching or not. Thomas is 73 now. He'll keep climbing those stairs as long as his legs work. And when they don't, someone else will climb them. His grandson, probably. Maybe his grandson's children. The tower will stand. The bells will ring. The lighthouse will continue its conversation with the sea, because some things are built to last, and some men are built to make sure they do. If you found this story as powerful as we did, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next journey into forgotten history. Drop a like if those bells gave you chills, and leave a comment telling us, what's something from the past you wish we'd never forgotten? Your stories matter. Share them below.